Hey, it's Roguestar1 reporting in. Let's talk Spitfire controls on War Thunder. Now, Spitfires are notoriously difficult to control on War Thunder, specifically because they're so twitchy. I think this wing, all it wants to do is go up and lift, and because the thing's so manoeuvrable, it's actually quite tricky to get it set just right. So I'm just going to show you what I've done with a couple of my Spitfires. Let's start with the Spitfire Mark IIA. Now I'm going to check out a test flight and I'm going to have a look at it. But I want to talk about controls and I also want to talk about trim a little bit. But first of all, let's take it into a test flight. Now, different options on test flights: arcade, realistic, and simulator. If I show you in simulator, it'll lock me in the cockpit, so I won't be able to show different views. So I'm going to select realistic battles as my test flight setting, and I'm just going to check it into the test flight there. So this will load up on a British map. Now here we have a Spitfire Mark IIA. I've already talked about setting up views, I've already talked about briefly setting up controls, and in that instance, when I set up controls in my last video, it was for a Hurricane. Now this time, this is for a Spitfire. So speaking of controls, let's go into those controls. Now this is for a Mark IIA. So let me show you my roll axis to begin with. Now I've got multiplier of 1.2 for my roll. So I wanted to roll a little bit quicker than the full one. And I have non-linearity here set at 1.5. That'll become obvious maybe later in the video. Non-linearity is a way of basically setting your axis for a given physical input and then responding as such. I haven't explained that very well, let me try again. So when you do a very small movement, you don't want it to move massively. So when you do small movements on the stick, you want it to move slowly. Whereas if you do a big deflection physically of the stick, you want a more response to that in terms of full scale deflection of your moving control surfaces. There's another video for non-linearity that somebody would better describe than what I can. It's worth checking that out. So anyway, roll axis, multiplier 1.2, non-linearity here of 1.5. And remember, this is for a Spitfire Mark IIA. My roll sensitivity is set to 70%. Let's take a look at the pitch. Now the pitch is the interesting one. Pitch is the one that we're fighting on a Spitfire to maintain control in War Thunder. And what I found is that my multiplier, generally these are always 1 by default. On my Mark IIA Spitfire, I've actually set it to 0.35. My dead zone here I set in when I have issues with the joystick, but my non-linearity I've not actually changed on the Mark IIA. I set it at 0.35. So that's my pitch, and my pitch sensitivity. Remember, the pitch setting is here, and then the sensitivity is here. Let's take a look at the yaw. And the yaw here is set at non-linear to 1.5 and my multiplier of 0.55. Sometimes the rudder helps you to... Oh, I've got left and right brakes set on it. I need to look at those brakes. Let me reset that. My left brake I've reset off the joystick and I can actually make it part of the keyboard. So what I've done is my maximum value is Z and my multiplier is 2 for the left brake, and my right brake, my maximum value is X and my multiplier is 2. Okay. So now all of the brake system is on the keyboard. Now I can use the Z key there for the left brake, the X key there for the right brake. Remember, I've got to use throttle to make the other wheel go around the stationary wheel. So that's how we do that. And let's turn it off. And then both of them will just should hold it. Right. So I've changed my brakes. Z and X on my keyboard here. Now, then let's look at the effect of the controls. Now, Spitfire is difficult to control, as I've already suggested. I'm going to put in change control mode here. And if I press that, it'll toggle between full, pointer, simplified and realistic. Generally I fly realistic in air RP battles, so air realistic battles. So let's just crank this around a bit. So remember that pitch is 0.35. Look at that, she's going round quite comfortably without stalling. Which is surprising because, and there we go, got wing vortices there, which means we're at limit of stalling. So that's my Mark 2A, my pitch setting at 0.35, and my roll, I'm able to correct issues if I start to stall, in terms of I'm able to get out of that situation. So that 0.35 setting is actually comfortable. Use that with a combination of view and look around. Remember, I've got view reset, so I go towards that column of vehicles there. Close flyby. But that's how I set my general Spitfire Mark 2A.